Republican field has gotten a little bit smaller. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul says he's dropping out of the White House race.
That leaves just 10 candidates fighting for the Republican nomination. So joining us now on the phone is a political contributor, Rick Davis, to talk a little bit about this. Rick, I don't suppose this comes as a complete surprise. We knew that the field was going to get smaller, but will this have any impact on the field going forward?
I think only a limited impact. You know, you're right. I mean, Iowa is performing its usual function of winnowing down the field. Huckabee got out of the race right at the evening of the Iowa caucuses, and now Rand Paul. So I think that realistically, Rand Paul hadn't had much traction in New Hampshire, probably one of his worst states. And so I think it's going to just be pretty much business as usual without him in the race.
And Rick, is there anybody else left that might be aligned somewhat with Rand Paul, with his libertarian views? Who would be looking for an endorsement from him?
Well, probably no one. You know, Rand Paul woke up in August on the wrong side of ISIS. You know, he was the pacifist in the race. He was the guy that didn't want any engagement in Syria. And after the attacks in France, ISIS became a #1 issue, the attack on terror, the war on terror. And Rand Paul he was on the wrong side of history there. And so the rest of the field all marched right and said, you know, we've got to secure the nation and be tough on terror. And Rand was sort of left as the only one at the party without a dance. There's a potential it could help Chris Christie a little bit. He's had a little bit of momentum in Iowa or in New Hampshire. Some of the libertarian views could pass as sort of social moderates in the Republican Party in New Hampshire. And so he maybe has the potential to pick up a little traction. But as I said before, he just never really created much of a following in New Hampshire. So his exit is not likely to benefit anyone in any particular way.
One of his main issues had to do with privacy. Do you think that conversation will continue, or are people just not all that interested in it?
Yeah, you know, his civil liberties, privacy discussion was much better suited in a period of time where we weren't threatened by terror. And I think people in the survey research I've seen are willing to roll back some of their rights and their liberties, like the Patriot Act after 9/11. In order to secure the home front. And I think if we were in a very peaceful environment and there was not threat of imminent terror attacks, these issues might have some traction. But again, you know, Rand Paul's whole issue set was really predicated on terror not being a major issue.
Right. Rick, we want to ask you about Donald Trump. He's making a lot of news on Twitter this morning. He tweeted out earlier saying Ted Cruz didn't win Iowa. He illegally stole it. That is why all of the polls were so wrong, and why he got more votes than anticipated. Bad. Then he went on to tweet, Ted Cruz didn't win Iowa. He stole it. Based on the fraud committed by Senator Ted Cruz during the Iowa caucus, either a new election should take place or Cruz results nullified. What's your response to that?
Look, I think that Donald Trump has added to the Republican dialogue a destructive and an angry voice, some of which has resonated with the public, his anger against government, but he's just an angry guy. And it hasn't really got a focus other than people who get in his way. His speech, the concession speech the night of the caucuses was, I think, appropriately demure. And the fact that, you know, not a day later he's crying foul just shows you what a small character he's become in this race. His entire premise was, I'm way ahead of everybody else in the surveys, and frankly, the surveys in Iowa were wrong.
But Rick, if he's so far ahead of everybody in New Hampshire, does Donald Trump feel that threatened to send out these texts and these tweets?
Yeah, because he probably sees tracking that elevated survey research is starting to dwindle for him. And you know, I think it's sort of emperor has no clothes, right? His entire traction and campaign was based on, I'm a winner. It wasn't ideological. He wasn't connecting with people on issues. And, it was, I'm going to restore greatness to America, greatness defined as, well, I'll get around to that later. A big wall on the border is really the only substantive issue that he's espoused. So it wouldn't surprise me that his support would be pretty ephemeral. I mean, the surveys taken in Iowa around the time of the vote indicated that, about 30% of his support was willing to change horses. And if it does that in New Hampshire, he's right back in the middle of the field.
All right, CBSN political contributor Rick Davis on the phone for us, breaking it all down. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.